Welcome back to AsArt with Nick and Kyle. Today we're going to talk about Arcane and just things we liked about it, and then maybe things that we can do, and not us, but like other shows can maybe borrow and use or get inspired by it to help up the level. Like even though they're like here, we just want animation to keep going up for adults. I mean, kid stuff is going to stay kid stuff, but we're really focusing more on adult animation here. And yeah, we're just gonna have a fun conversation about it. And comment down below if you like this series, Arcane. We really loved it. And Kyle, let's do it.
Nick. Yes. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. So one thing that like stood out to me was, obviously it's 3D.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of 2D elements. Like the map paintings were 2D, and the stylistic, like, not secondary animation, but like all the effects animation, like the explosions, and stuff like that, felt very 2D. And I think they were 2D to help do the blend with the environment and stuff. But talk about a perfect blend of 2D and 3D. And that's something like I feel like a lot of shows are either like, oh, we're either all in one way or all in the other way, or it's heavy 2D with some 3D aspects, right? Like the 3D will be rendered to make it look like 2D. Like Futurama would be an example, right? Like the ship's 3D, even though it looks 2D, but you can still see because of the way it moves in perspective, like it totally breaks the whole 2D illusion once it moves and stuff like that. Even in Avatar: The Last Airbender, like the airships are 3D. So it's so like you have this like awesome, amazing, beautiful 2D fight scene, but then you see like the ship go and like turn, like then you could just like, oh, that's 3D because it breaks that. But anyways, let's talk about this.
Well, yeah. So that's my so we can actually touch on that 2D blending with 3D very well in Arcane. So I think the benefit that Riot Games has with this is that they're already familiar with that space, right? Because if they're making games, that has to look good every time, right? Because it's not just going to be happening once in a sequence. It's going to be happening whenever they do like a move, let's say, right? And like they need that to look good multiple times, right? It just can't look good once. And it's like, okay, because we're moving on. No, they're going to be continually using that move maybe. And so it has to look good on that. And so I think that like that shows in the show itself, right? For their like in their production process and stuff, because I think that when you do stuff that's just a series that's not a game studio, right? You can still get that good blend, but I think that also it boils down to technology and your workforce, right? Like the skill set you have with the people on the show. And I just think that because of production schedules and stuff, sometimes there isn't enough that vernacular isn't fine-tuned because maybe that responsibility isn't with someone that's been with the studio for a bit. Maybe they're a contractor, right? They're coming in,
which I think they did outsource, not outsource, but the French studio worked on this, I think, right?
Right.
Which was different from the game studio. And I think the French studio did their animatics, not animatics, their what is it called? Cinematics. Animatics.
Yeah.
But they did such a good job, beautiful thing, but they were probably working closely with the game modelers and designers, and they were probably getting assets and then upping up the res and the poly counts and stuff like that, or whatever they were doing to make it work. But they did such a great job. And it's so funny because like I'm remembering Attack on Titans right now, and the first part of the last season, I think one of the first times we got a 3D Titan, right? Because they were always 2D, right? And it's like beautiful because you got the warped perspectives and the camera moves, and it was just amazing 2D. But once it was 3D, it was like, that's 3D. Like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I'm a fan of this. And I think what hurt them too was we've only seen it as 2D.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like it was 3D from the beginning, every time, but I don't know.
And to switch it up in the middle of it, let alone the last season, apparently, right?
Yeah.
So
you think it was for budgets? I don't actually know. I have no idea. This is just a conversation.
This is all speculation, folks. Yeah.
This show, because this is the style it's presented in, right? From the get-go. And it's not like it's going to be like, oh, we're going to add 3D in later. Oh, we're going to do 2D map paintings and stuff later. It's like they already established this world, and as long as they stay with it, it's going to look good.
Right.
And now for other shows like Castlevania, right? Like we love Castlevania here. Trust
Yes,
me,
we
we're
do.
not when we if it sounds like criticism, it's not. We love Castlevania. It's just we want everything to be the best, right? Like I really enjoyed Into the Spider-Verse, right? And the style of that 3D, because they played with frame rates, right? When Miles Morales is learning how to be Spider-Man, he's choppier than, I think he's at like 12 frames per second. And when Peter Parker is at 30 frames per second when he's swinging. So it makes it look like Spider-Man really doesn't know what he's doing, right? He's like, and then Spider-Man's like, woo, nice and smooth, right? But it's like they're using technology and basic, not what wouldn't be basic, but they're using more than just art styles at their disposal to help tell the story and push emotion through, right? And I think Arcane did that really well too with the fight sequences.
Yeah. I mean, I think like when you get really striking animation and techniques like Spider-Verse and Arcane, I think a lot of times we go back to the dope sheet, right? Which is like the actual like frame timings, right, of movements, right? Like
that's true.
And frame rates and stuff like that. So I think that plays a huge part. I think and with Castlevania, it's interesting because don't get me wrong, Castlevania is still a great
fantastic
animation. It's fantastic. There's stuff like Arcane and Castlevania that's great, but then we get stuff like now, correct me if I'm wrong, audience, but I had huge hopes for He-Man Revelation, right?
Was that on Hulu?
No, that's on Netflix.
Oh, it's on Netflix. Okay.
And I watched the first part when it first came out because they're doing it in installments. I think the second installment's out now. And I don't care to watch the second installment because the first one was pretty bad from a story perspective, not necessarily an animation perspective, right? But I think that the story itself, like whatever the screenplay is, just isn't as captivating at least for an adult audience. I think it's still mainly geared maybe towards kids, maybe. Because if the intent was to gear it towards adults, they definitely missed the mark.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So I want to say also you have to start with the writing if you want to make animation a more appealing to adults, right? Which Arcane did.
Yes.
Right? The writing is actually very I would say in certain parts pretty highbrow, right?
Very highbrow.
It's got depth of human emotion. It's got multiple different connections with plot and stuff and subplots, and it's interesting.
Yeah, really good character backstories too. Like you're really attached to the characters here. It's not like they're just throwing in characters for the sake of throwing them in, and like every story beat has meaning behind it too. And there's pros and cons for every character's decision throughout the series. Yeah. Every character has this gray area that they're living by, but they think they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like everyone's great, but they think they're doing the right thing,
Right.
And it's so good and it's so deep compared to other, most of the time now when we do get adult shows and adult themes for animation, it's because of the violence, right? That's like what would consider it like adult themed and stuff like that.
That's
it's
true.
Like heavy violence and stuff like that. But this, yes, there was violence and beautiful fight sequences. Beautiful. Probably some of the best camera work for a animated series show we've seen. It looks so good. But sorry, I get distracted because they're like, oh, look how sparkly and beautiful it is.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, Attack on Titans is good. And I like the character arcs and where the characters are going stuff, but I don't know why, but I really like the character arcs in Arcane with the characters. I feel like because maybe it's something with anime and the pacing and stuff like that, but I thought everything was just spot on with Arcane, and I just think hopefully it's like not the new Matrix, but for animation kind of thing, because the Matrix kind of shifted film action movies, like the way it was shot. To
right,
once everyone saw the Matrix, it was like, whoa. So hopefully, people are inspired by this, and we kind of get a new era of adult animated, series or even movies and stuff like that would be cool because adults like animation. I feel like, especially if the story's good and stuff like that, it's right up there, if not better than some of the best action series because you can do more with a budget in 3D animation for action stuff than you can with a live action crew, and it'll look better.
It can look better.
Oh, come on. This series looks so good.
Oh, no. Oh, no,
I mean,
no,
do you want to talk about Cowboy Bebop on
No, I'm just talking about that, like, sure, you can have really cool concept art and, like, you can totally fumble the execution.
Yes.
Right?
It's true.
That's what I mean by that.
No, it's true.
But also say it's interesting because if we look back on some of our animated movies and shows, I mean, let's bear in mind that all the writers are adults, right? And there's actually quite an injection of adult humor in a lot of these.
That's true.
Right?
Like Shrek.
Exactly, because they know they're entertaining the kids, but like they also know that the parents might be watching, and so like they kind of get these little nods, like are you still with us, kind of deal, and that the parents enjoy. So I think that, like, I almost want to say that animation for adults has always been there, but it's always been behind.
It's like
the
50-50, right?
Yes, it's always been behind the curtain of like it being for kids first, but now it's like, now you guys can come out and do it for us adults now too. You know.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? I just watched on HBO Max. They have like a documentary on Sesame Street. I know we're talking about adult animation stuff, but one thing they did was their testing rooms, and like I just found this so interesting because they wanted the parents to also be like, oh, like this is fun for us too, so they don't just like turn on the TV and like let the kids do it, and they're like, I don't know, I guess I'll just pick up a newspaper. So they did tons of different tests with people and kids. Like they would play on the TV the Muppet thing, and they would flash images over to the left, and if the kids only just glanced at the other images but went straight back to the TV, then they know they got the kids' attention right with the show. And then they realized, you know, obviously, I'm going off topic here, but I just think this is very interesting. But they realized that the kids would only look at the screen when the Muppets were on there, because originally Sesame Street was just going to be humans walking around on the street, and they were just like look at the images. They wouldn't even like once the humans, but whenever the Muppets were on TV, it was like zoom, like laser focus, like you're no way you're getting me off. So, anyways, like this is a good test because like my eyes, like when this series came out, I was just like next. Yeah. Like I just wanted more. I wanted more of this. And I did that with Castlevania too, but maybe I just have an addictive personality, but I was like next. Like this is so good. So I really hope. I mean, it looks like the numbers are great for this thing on Netflix, and I know Netflix is really good at listening to their audience sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes they are, and I feel like they're not freaking out, but like Disney's really investing into their streaming service, right? And Disney's a powerhouse of animation.
Yep.
Don't try to compete with Disney's audience, which is kids. You know what I mean? Like you could still do kids stuff, and I know they have Avatar: The Last Airbender and stuff, but like Disney, once Disney's focused on something, they're gonna like take it over, and they'll buy everything on the way there.
You know, okay, so here's the thing. Maybe if it's one thing, it's this, and that's like major studios and streaming services out there. This is to you, okay? So I would say that do not make it all about market share and potential revenue. Remember that adults can recognize when someone has made art, right? Where it matters, right? And it shows in the end product, okay? And adults are sophisticated enough and nuanced to notice that in their animation and really enjoy it and draw audiences to your shows. Dude. That's it.
I think that's a great way to end this. By the way, guys, if you guys like Kyle like I do, you should follow him on Instagram like I do, Pecos with a 0. Let him know that you're from AsArt and you're stopping by to say hi. He's an amazing artist. He's incredible. Go check it out. If you like Arcane's behind the scenes artwork, stuff like that, you'll probably dig his Instagram. It's just very sci-fi, fun, cool vibes over there. So go over to Instagram and then also go over to asart.space for the audio and video links. We got podcasts. We've been doing tons of other reviews here. It's been so much fun. By the way, check out our other Arcane video. We had a lot of fun just like throwing up goodness all over that. we were just so happy. We're just like, this is amazing. But subscribe. We'll see you next time on AsArt.